Good evening. This is the Nordic Football Podcast. And I'm not saying good morning or good afternoon because we are recording right after the games. Two huge, massive games in Europe tonight involving our region. And we literally just had to jump on air because we can't believe what we've witnessed this evening. Welcome to the Nordic Football Podcast. I'm joined as ever by Steve Wyss. We've got two European quarterfinals to talk about, and somehow we've emerged with two semi-finalists in the Europa League and the Conference League. Bodø, Glimt and Djurgården have done it, and they have somehow made it to the semi-finals of European competition. It's a landmark, historic night. Steve Wyss is here with me right now. How are you, Steve?
Oh, Jonathan, I'm absolutely buzzing. These are, you could almost call this like an emergency podcast, really, couldn't you? But what a night. I mean, I love my Thursday Europa League and Conference League all season. I actually prefer it to Champions League, and it was the dramatic night everywhere, not just in the two games involving Glimt and Djurgården. I mean, it started earlier, Fiorentina against a Slovenian side called Chile, and I love how the plucky underdogs just always give great accounts of themselves in the Europa League. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I could sleep anyway, so I thought might as well do a podcast. And I mean, massive reaction pod here from the two games. And we've got two mouth-watering semi-finals to look forward to.
Yep, absolutely. Buzzing, as you say, is the right word to describe it. Unbelievable, to be honest. We had a show, didn't we, Steve? 3 or 4 weeks back now, before the season previews, in which we talked about the likelihood of the teams advancing, and I think we kind of mutual consensus was both teams are probably going to struggle to get to the semi-finals. This is uncharted territory. We've never witnessed this in pod history. I believe it's the first time in Norwegian history a team has reached a European semi-final. So this is literally, history has been made, uncharted territory. I'll just read you the results. So tonight, this evening, we've had the second leg. Obviously, Lazio 3, Bodø Glimt 1, aggregate 3-3, went to extra time, went to penalties. Unbelievable. Steve was going to tell us all about it in any second. And just obviously in the Conference League as well, Djurgården in Sweden, the Stockholm Giants have come through on aggregate 4-2 after extra time, after a 4-1 win against Rapid Vienna away from home. We're going to get into that. But Steve, let's start in Norway because, I mean, what is going on?
Well, the first leg itself, I mean, I'll give you credit here, Jonathan. You actually did predict it. You said that you gave Bodø Glimt a good chance against Lazio and that you weren't even joking, stuff like that. I said they had a chance, but logically Lazio would come through. The first leg, genuinely, it could have been 3 or 4-0 to Bodø Glimt in Norway. They absolutely battered them. It was one of the best performances I've seen. Just lacked extra goals, really. And when that happens, when chances are missed, you always worry, don't you? Down the line, it's going to come back and bite you. But I was nervous. I was really nervous in approach to the 8 p.m. kickoffs here in the UK. I was going to go for a walk beforehand just to clear my head a bit. I just couldn't do it. I was sort of prancing around and, there was a lot of action going on. I was interested in it from a football perspective, from a betting perspective. The Lazio Bodø Glimt game was the first game that I had on. And Glimt started well. The first 10, 15 minutes, they looked good. I thought, bloody hell, they might actually score the first goal here. And then Lazio woke up and gradually started to take control of the game. Lazio have ended up with, including extra time, over 32 official shots in the game with an XG of 3.03. And they got an opening goal. Castellanos, it was a nice little back heel of a goal. Gustav Isaksson assisted it. He had a good game for them. He's a player I really rate, Gustav Isaksson, the Danish international, former Midtjylland player. I think he's a great player. But, and they got to half-time at 1-0. But it wasn't pretty. They were digging deep. And at that stage, I'll be honest with you, I certainly couldn't see how Lazio wouldn't score a second goal, which probably meant elimination really long-term down the line because they weren't offering enough and they were getting sucked into a trap that I've seen before in Europe where they just get dominated away from home on these grass pitches. But they got into half-time, which is important. I think that's the first thing to say. But Lazio certainly at the interval were looking strong. Probably felt they should have had a more than 1-0 lead.
Yeah, let's look at the lineups because obviously they're quite important, and Glimt at the moment, the Twitter account is bouncing off the walls. Nikita Hykin, where do you want your statue? The goalkeeper has pulled out some unbelievable saves, obviously, in the penalty shootout, Steve. I'll just read the lineup tonight. Obviously, it's Hykin, Bjorkan, Gunderson, Bjortoft, Sorvold, Saltnes, Berg, Evian, Bromberg, Ho, and Hauger. And obviously, Steve, the Norwegian season started. Obviously, they've had to prepare for this, Glimt. But Saltnes got 2 goals in that first leg, as you mentioned there. They won 2-0, and they took it back to, they've gone to the Olympico. And Steve, I did say, like you said, that I rate this Glimt side. They keep getting underestimated. People are not paying attention to Glimt, in my opinion. But even then, to go to the Olympico, Steve, a fiery night, Lazio fans, you know what they're like. They can create an atmosphere. How did they deal with the atmosphere? Because obviously Glimt have dealt with this before, haven't they? When it's the other side of town, Roma. Many times they've faced them over the years now. So they're kind of used to the Olympico a little bit, aren't they? But how did they handle the conditions with that late sucker punch as well? Tell us about the late sucker punch.
I thought they handled the surroundings and conditions really well. What actually happened was Lazio turned up to play. Now, Lazio, for those who haven't really been following them, have not been great recently. They've been letting a lot of people down. They've not looked that good, but they were bang on it. You could tell Lazio were in the mood tonight. You just could tell. So Glimt were facing a team that, when on paper, Lazio are the better team. In theory, way more expensive players and a lot of proven quality. So they did perform. Second half, it just the longer it went on, I just couldn't see them holding out. And then it got to like 70 minutes and it was still 1-0, 75 minutes, 80 minutes, 85, and it was still 1-0. I'm thinking, hold on, this might happen here. Towards the end, the last 10, 15 minutes, Glimt even had chances on the break because Lazio were overcommitting. They brought on Helmerson. He had a very interesting night. Brought him on 76th minute for Kasper Wartz-Ho. And he had a huge chance in it, I think, 89th minute, 90th minute. And that would have made it 2-1. Sorry, 1-1. And that would have sealed the deal. It was a massive opportunity, which he was kind of point blank range. He just fired it at the goalkeeper. And then you wonder, is that going to come back to bite you? And it did, because Noslin popped up late on. It was a scrappy goal. I think it was from a corner or a set piece. The origin was the ball came in the box. They just couldn't clear it. And Noslin, 93rd minute, I think there was only +5 added on. Jens Petter Hauger then nearly won it with the last kick of the game, but he had a deflected shot go behind for a corner. Lazio deserved the second goal, to be fair to them. And that took it to extra time. I was gutted for them. At that point in time, I really was gutted because they were literally 2 minutes away from making the semi-finals of the Europa League. And, I worried for them at the interval for extra time then, Jonathan.
Yeah, and that, sucker punch really, and it speaks to the character of this Glimt side, Steve, that they just keep recovering from these setbacks. They keep getting underrated. I mean, you'll know all about the odds on this game in terms of who was the massive, overwhelming favourite. Like you say, Castellanos, Noslin, 90+3, and then tell us about extra time.
Well, do you know what? I think extra time. I thought Bodo Glimt. I think it was quite an even period actually. Extra time. What Lazio took their foot off the accelerator, and they're known for this over the season. They kind of only play when they want to play a bit sometimes, and they didn't. They were willing to be more patient. Guendouzi, he had a good game. He's actually a really annoying player, when he's in the mood. Guendouzi, he's took a lot of bad press down the years, but when he's in the zone, he's not unplayable. He's difficult to deal with. He had a great run in the box, lovely little cross, which you see the goalkeeper and everyone, and Boulaye Dia had a free header, and that's the 100th minute, and that was 3-0. And, I think I then tweeted something out on my own account saying, basically, Bodø Glimt were going to pay for the misses last week because it should have been 3 or 4-0 last week. I didn't at that point see them scoring. I think 3-0 Lazio, thought Bodø Glimt were dead and buried, really. But the character they're showing after that, they were more positive, they were more aggressive, gave themselves a couple of half chances, and then a great ball in from, two substitutes combined. Mata crossed it in, and Helmerson then made up for his miss in normal time with a great header. Keeper tried to save it, couldn't quite tip it over the bar. And Helmerson equalised with, got them equal on aggregate then at 3-3. And to be honest, the last sort of 10 minutes of extra time, I can't remember a meaningful chance for either team really then. Lazio would have been disappointed with how they finished the game, but Glimt did have a strong extra time period overall. There was a red card late. Helmerson got a yellow, he actually picked up a yellow 1 minute coming on the pitch, and then he picked up his second yellow right on the buzzer there, 120 minutes. He might have taken a penalty if he had not had the red. So we'll never know what would have happened. But I think after, when you're 3-0 down and needing a goal in the last 18 minutes, they'd have definitely taken a penalty shootout. But they deserve a lot of credit for the extra time performance.
Yeah, and then it went to penalties, and obviously we know what happened there, Steve. History's been made. You'll tell us all about the penalties in a second. I'm just going to read some of the headlines. Aftenposten has called it a great piece of Norwegian football history. Steve, this is the first time in history, of course, a Norwegian side has reached the semi-final of a European competition. Never been done before. Someone has put on Twitter saying that this makes Glimt now the most successful team in Norwegian football history. The penalty shootout, Steve, how did it unfold?
Well, I think Bodø Glimt won the toss and decided to take the first penalty. Jens Petter Hauge stepped up and missed. It was a save, wasn't a great penalty. And it made me then think, I think he's missed probably his last 3 now in competitive competitions. So he certainly shouldn't be on any penalty-taking duties going forward. Boulaye scored for Lazio. And honestly, at that point, I'm thinking, here we go. But Sondre Fett had a good penalty. And then Chuana missed a penalty. Nikita Haikin saved it. And I could barely watch these penalties, John. I've not been as nervous watching a shootout for a long time, probably since an England game. I was on the edge of my seat. I really cheered so loudly when the first Lazio penalty was missed. My cat, who was next to me at the time, sat up and was like, what the hell are you doing? Sorley then scored, and then Noslin. I thought Nikita Haikin had he did the thing, the goalkeeper weaving, when he goes left to right, and he was sort of trying to confuse Noslin. Noslin missed the target entirely. Dragged it well wide to the left, the guy who'd scored the late goal to make it 2-0 in normal time. Brendan Moe came in, the centre-back, to score the 4th penalty then. Meant Guendouzi had to score for Lazio. He had a good penalty. Patrick Berg steps up. If he scores, the man, the captain, the top player, he's suspended in the first leg against Spurs. If he scores, Bodø Glimt are through. And I'm thinking, this is what they've been waiting for. This is the moment they've been waiting for. He takes the kick like he's been auditioning for an NFL kicker's job. Well through the post, miles high, missed. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I thought that was the one chance they had, because Castellanos is on the 5th penalty for Lazio, but Aiken came up with a big save. I can't remember too much about it, to be honest. I think it was a pretty average penalty off the top of my head, and I really gave it large watching this. I'm like, come on, the poor cat. I think she had enough of me then. She went and hid away, went upstairs. But I couldn't believe it. Bodø Glimt through. Incredible drama. Officially, I think it's 3-2 on penalties.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, the newspapers are loving it. Dagbladet in Norway, Norwegian newspaper, has called it an unbelievable result, a tirade. They've also lamented a little bit of the refereeing, and of course the fact that several key players will miss the opening game of the semi-finals, which will be against Tottenham Hotspur. Steve, London. Glimt are coming to London. Lars Tjarnes wrote to Dagbladet and said it is the most raw game he's ever seen, and compared it to Brazil-Norway in 1998, which he commentated on in the World Cup. He said for now they'll enjoy the match, but of course they're going to have to think about the suspensions, which are going to be potentially tie defining. Really, they're going to miss some key players, which we'll ask you about in a second, and you'll tell us about that. But before we go into all that, I mean, Kjetil Knutsen has come out, Stephen said the fact that we came back into this match is amazing. He's criticised the German referee. The other semi-final is going to be Manchester United against Athletic Bilbao after a crazy end to the game in Manchester as well. Andreas Toft, via play commentator, said, amazing pictures. This is unbelievable. Everybody's just going crazy at the moment in terms of Norwegian people involved in Norwegian football. Nikita Häkkinen, he said, I didn't think the game would go this far, but we did not give up. We had to keep going. We knew the chances were coming. He's the penalty hero. And yeah, absolutely crazy, says Jostein Gundersen to via play, that Bodo Glimt will play in the semi-finals of the Europa League. Steve, sum this up in your own words, and let's get onto the Spurs game. I mean, can Bodo Glimt actually make the final? Could they even go all the way to even win a European competition?
Wow, I mean, it is an unbelievable achievement when you think about it. And, I think I said in the season preview pod that Nikita Häkkinen is an underrated player for Bodo Glimt. The goalkeeper is a big player for them. And he's came up trumps there. I think it looked like he'd done his homework really well. He had a different sort of style of approach to the penalty for different players. So I reckon he would have done his research. And well done to him. 2 saves plus putting the player off for the miss. And now they play against Spurs, and the first leg is going to be in London at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They're going to be having to play without Patrick Berg and Håkon Evjen, 2 central midfielders. 2 really, really important players, no doubt about it, especially Berg, who I think he oozes class and quality. Patrick Berg, for me. He's too good for the Norwegian league, really, and Evjen is top class as well. So they're going to have to, what they need to do, I mean, there might be quite a few Spurs fans listening to this, maybe, and, wondering how easy or how hard it's going to be for Spurs. The big problem Spurs have got is the second leg. Going to Fortress Asmira Stadion. Many a big team's gone there and struggled. And to be honest with you, based on history and logic and stuff, you've got to probably think Bodo Glimt would win the second leg, especially as they'll have Berg and Evjen back for that. The first leg is going to be very difficult for them because we know they have their struggles away from home. They're going to be well coached, though, by Kjetil Knutsen, and there's a history. But managers have faced each other before when Ange Postecoglou was at Celtic. I can tell you now, Knutsen absolutely wiped the floor with that team. Totally wiped the floor with it. Obviously, Spurs are different to Celtic, but it just maybe shows that the tactical style might not be a good matchup for Spurs if Ange doesn't learn his lessons. Now, what they have done quite well, Spurs, against Frankfurt, is they've limited them and played in a different way than they normally do. They're going to have to give Bodo Glimt some respect because they've got players, especially now. I mean, a key man's going to be Jens Petter Hauger on the left wing, cuts inside, was once touted for really big things in Europe. So he's a player to watch. They've got a good physical strike in Kasper Wartz-Ho, who's going to keep the likes of Romero busy. And we know the fullbacks are very important to this team, Fredrik Bjørkan and Sjovold. So, who's going to come into the midfield? Sondre Fett, I think, will. He's a midfield engine dynamic midfielder in the mid. I'm not really sure who else will come in to play centre midfield. That's a tough question. Ulrich Saltnes, there's going to be a lot on his shoulders now, the captain who scored 2 goals in the first leg. They've got to come out of that first tie alive. If they can avoid defeat by less than 3 goals, I think Bodo Glimt have got a chance.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in the weeks to come. It's going to be a monumental game for this podcast for Norway, for Norwegian football. It's going to be one for the age books. Well, one for the ages, really. Steve, I've got a friend who's a Spurs fan. You just talked about a few Spurs fans potentially listening. This just sums up the general opinion of Bodo Glimt around Europe. I don't even really know who Bodo are. What nation are they from? Their capacity is 8,000. Ha, ha, ha. Shouldn't they be in the Conference League? They are a small team from Norway that has recently come good and been fortunate to reach the semi-final of the Euro, but I expect to make the final. Steve, although that's, we are quite niche in the fact that we've been covering this league for many years. Nothing's new about Glimt, for maybe regular listeners, but for someone like that who doesn't have a clue, Bodo Glimt, number one, how do people not know Bodo Glimt by now? Because they have been on on the end of some battering, like you just said there about Ange and the Celtic game. But the reason I read that is because just put this into context of what Glimt have done. From coming from where we covered this league, many years ago, and it was Rosenborg who were the big dogs, to now. Just in a short summary, Steve, just explain to maybe a Spurs fan listening to this what Glimt have done in the last years to get to this semi-final. Because the perception might be this is like a fluke, and that they're just some bums who have sort of turned up in the semi-final somehow. But that is not the case at all, is it, Steve? Just put it into context for us.
Won the second tier with promotion, survived first season back in Eliteserien, and then went second, and then have won 4 of the last 5 league titles in Norway. So, and they've done it with brilliant coaching on and off the field, a superb recruitment model where they've signed players, sold them, made a profit. They've brought in some of the best youngsters in the region as well, and a lot of the players that 3 or 4 years ago moved on are now back. So you've got an unusually high quality squad. I mean, I read something in the build up to this about how 2 or 3 players had turned down offers in the winter. And basically the message is, how could we leave this project right now? They are all in on, the ultimate objective for Bodø Glimt is to qualify for the Champions League group stage. Now, if they actually win Europa, that's done and dusted. They don't have to think about qualifying then. But they're all in it for that project, and they're obviously all in it now for this Europa League. So they've come from kind of nowhere to this team. But, for anyone who's dismissing them, all Spurs fans have to do is ask one of their former managers, Jose Mourinho, who has been twice given a bloody nose by this team. He got his revenge on them eventually. But I said before, if Spurs don't win that first leg or don't have a good lead to take with them up to Norway, I can't tell you how tough that is. We use the word tough place to go. I think that's the toughest place to go in the whole of Europe right now. Any team. I think it's so unique. It's a plastic pitch, and the 8,000 capacity stadium is not anywhere you want to be at all. I don't think Spurs are going to have a walk in the park, and they've got to deliver a really strong first leg of the North London outfit.
Yeah, good summary. I'm going to go as far as to say, Steve, that I think this would be, if the Glimt were to get to the final or win the final, I think this would be a bigger achievement than Leicester winning the Premier League. I think it's that big. I think this is like a modern day. I think this is one. I think this is one of the modern day greatest achievements in modern football. I mean, we're talking about a team that there's no sugar daddy. There's no like investment of injection of cash. They don't spend a huge amount. It's been organic earnings. They've had to trade players to get better players, if that makes sense. Some have been sold to big clubs and come back. They're in the European semi-final, Steve. Spurs have never won this competition, and nor have Glimt. And honestly, this could be one of the most romantic fairy tales in modern European football history. So keep an eye on this. It's going to be a massive game, that 2 legs, one in London, one in Norway. And just, Steve, a bit of a minor thing before we move on. We will obviously talk about this story a lot more in the coming weeks, but a bit of a strange one that I'm reading is that there was a bit of confusion about, I think, the yellow cards. It seems that some of the Norwegian players, the Glimt players, didn't realise that they would be suspended, according to Dagbladet and some interview comments from Gundersen. Can you clear that up a little bit? Is that, from your point of view, that seems a bit strange, really?
Well, I knew there were 4 players at risk of suspension heading into the game. We knew it. Last week it was talked about as well. Don't get booked, otherwise you're going to miss the second leg. There were 2 other players I do believe are at risk as well. I can't remember who they are or were, but they didn't get booking. There was a confusion in the first half in that initially the ref gave the card to Evian, and then it was apparently Krasperwart's Ho who got the booking. It was kind of one of those where both players were close to each other on the foul. Anyway, he apparently gave it to Ho. But then later, Evian did get booked in the second half. Evian got booked in the 63rd minute. I think Patrick Berg was really disappointed with his yellow in the 80th minute. It did look a little bit harsh. The referee, Daniel Siebert, is not a good ref. He's a German referee. I've watched quite a lot of his games this season. He's far too heavy-handed to put his cards in, bring the cards out. I think there was 11 cards in the game in total. I know that includes extra time, but yeah, it wasn't a great refereeing performance. it would have been nice to have a bit more leniency. A card's a card. We'll talk about the Djurgarden game soon, and some of them were deserved. But I thought the ref could have let a few go, and I think also it's the referee. The referee's should know who's at risk of suspension, and whether it's fair or not. I think he has a great responsibility to make sure if a player is going to miss a semi-final, he's got to make sure it's a proper deserved yellow, and I'm not sure that was the case certainly with Berg's card.
Yeah, it seems a lot of confusion around that, so we'll keep an eye on that. I mean, Kjetil Knutsen's been very criticised the referee in a major way. He said that the German referee was too heavy-handed and was influenced by the crowd. So he never seems to be too satisfied in Knutsen, does he? He's always a bit got something to say in these big European ties. But unbelievable for Glimt, Steve. Unreal achievement. Well done to everyone, and we shall be covering that. I mean, Steve, I don't know what we're going to do if they win the Europa League. I mean, we might need tickets for Norway. We might need tickets for Spurs.
My first thought was I need to try and get down. I need to try and see if I can get some tickets for the game in London. If they go to Bilbao, I don't travel too well, as you know. But I don't know. I mean, this kind of hit me by surprise a little bit. It's all hit me at once this tonight with Glimt and then Djurgården obviously going through as well. It's too much for me to handle at the moment, Jonathan. I need to think clearly in the morning on the next few days. But it's crazy times. Knutsen, by the way, was booked himself, and he did deserve his yellow.
Yeah, I mean, let's move on. Unbelievable, like we say, we will cover this in more detail. Obviously, it's going to affect their league form as well, potentially. This is, uncharted territory, as we said. Over to Sweden, Steve. I mean, I'm sort of the resident Swedish expert, but you are the European man. You cover these games in detail, in depth. So let's both talk it out. We'll start with yourself, Steve. Just sum up the match. I mean, we'll put it into context in a minute, but the game itself, red cards, controversy, all sorts has gone on here, hasn't they? But the bottom line of it is not only is there a Norwegian team in the semi-final, a Swedish team has reached a European semi-final for the first time since 1987, I believe.
Wow. I mean, yeah, absolutely incredible. I mean, it felt like, this is a skeleton crew, by the way, of Djurgården that have made it through. They've got all sorts of players ineligible to play. They've got injuries everywhere. First leg in Stockholm, a goalkeeping mistake cost them a goal. And it just kind of felt like it was the end of the road. You sometimes sense it. It just felt probably it was too much to make up. And it's not even their own fault in a lot of ways. If they could have fielded their best 11 and everything, it might have been a different story. But so I didn't really think they could turn it around tonight. Funny enough, I was on a live betting show earlier, and we were talking about the referee for the game, Anthony Taylor, English ref, who's suddenly become a ref who doesn't like to give any cards out. And I actually made the point: watch out for not many cards in this game. He lets everything go. And what happens? There was, I think, 9 cards, and one of them was a red. There was a red card as early as the 7th minute. And this is the key incident. This guy, Sangare, for Rapid Vienna, Mamadou Sangare, who apparently came into the team to shore them up. He was actually suspended in Stockholm. Has basically come in the 7th minute and delivered a leg... Well, it might be an ankle-breaking tackle. We don't know. On Nuno Zugay. I think that's how you pronounce him, isn't it? And Taylor gave a yellow card straight away, which just shows how lenient he is. This is a clear red. He had to go to the VAR screen to overturn it. And this gets worse and worse the more you look at it. One of the worst tackles I've seen. Genuinely horrific. But that's opened the door for Djurgården, Jonathan. And I'll tell you what, after that, they were like a dog with a bone who didn't let go.
Yeah, well, dog with a bone. They've gone to Vienna. They've done it. I don't know. I don't even know where to start, to be quite honest. Yanni Honkavara. Obviously, the first leg, Steve, you might want to speak about that a little bit as well. But I'll start with the comments from Yanni Honkavara. So the players gave everything and lived with their feelings. I saw how tired they were. I I think we deserve this after everything. This is a one-of-a-kind evening. It's incredible, an incredible feeling. I'm so proud. Diff have made history for the first time ever, Steve, playing in a European semi-final. The last time they got to a quarter-final, they lost to Hibs in 1955 in the European Cup. The last time a Swedish team reached the semi-finals in Europe was 1987, as I said there, IFK Göteborg in the UEFA Cup, beating Dundee United, Steve. So it's a bit of a common theme there with Scottish teams. They've banked a ton of money, Steve, another 2.5 million euros for getting to the semi-finals. Diff, this could be a potential game changer for them over the next sort of 3-4 years, really, their finances. They have made reportedly now over 150 million Swedish krona, which works out at sort of, at least roughly 15 million pounds or so. It's a game changer, Steve. But in terms of the action on the pitch, I mean, going into this from the first leg, did you see this coming, in terms of what had happened in the first leg?
Not really, because I think Rapid Vienna are the better team of the two, especially with the lineups that Djurgarden have been forced to field. So no, I didn't see them turning it around. But once the red card happens after 7 minutes, that changes the whole game, and it's given them a chance. And you could almost tell that the players, not saying they woke up, but you could tell there was more belief. It's going to give anyone belief, isn't it? You sense, hold on, this might be our night here. And they started to assert themselves on the game. I mean, Djurgården have totally deserved it on the night, on the pattern of play. The first half, you could tell immediately they were in the ascendancy. They looked like scoring. I think there was a ball cleared off the line. There was more injuries. Zugay had to go off. I mean, we don't know how bad his injury is. That could be a broken ankle from what I've seen. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's just some bruising and he gets back on the pitch. But then Felanius went off as well, 21st minute. That one looked bad for him. They're walking wounded, aren't they, Djurgården? They've got so many ineligible players, but they got a penalty. Anthony Taylor again involved. What is it about this ref? He's had controversy wherever he's been this season, Anthony Taylor. Gave a penalty, and Marcus Danielsson converted it, and you think they're going to be leading 1-0 at half-time, but there was a bit of a sloppy own goal conceded from a Rapid Vienna. Ball came in, and Rapid Vienna, the crowd went berserk. And that was 1-1 at half-time. And you're just wondering then, can Rapid set themselves at half-time and basically park the bus to hold out for a 1-1 draw? And I was thinking, it wouldn't have surprised me, because Djurgården, the team they had on paper, I'm not sure whether they were going to have the creativity and the quality to potentially break them down. But as it turned out, an unbelievably top-class goal did take them to extra time.
Yeah, once they got to extra time, you'll tell us about it in a second. I mean, like you said, they lost the first leg. They're not even in the greatest of form, to be fair. In terms of how they have turned this around, they lost the first leg a week ago, 1-0 at home. That was a Findell own goal, bit of an unlucky one there. Then they've played the derby, of course, at the weekend against Hammarby. Stockholm derby, lost 2-0. Probably maybe got one eye on this game, the rematch. So maybe took their eye off the ball a little bit in that big Stockholm derby, but of course the ghost came back for that one. But this one here, 4-1. I mean, Danielsson penalty, Kosugi, Gullikson with 2. Larsson, of course, for another own goal. Larsson in the 45th minute. 2 red cards for Rapid Vienna. There was a lot of controversy in this game, Steve, as well. Victor Berg was hit by a plastic cup. He looked really quite dazed, didn't he, as well? And the sort of controversies around Diff, with their stadium being partially closed and everything like that. There's been a lot of off-field issues in their run, to be fair. But once it got to the crunch, Steve, just talk us through the crunch that's taken them to the semi-finals. How did it unfold?
Well, there was a brilliant goal that got them to extra time. It was from, I think, he's a new? No, he's not a new signing. He was a new signing last year. Kaita Kosugi. I think he's Japanese. It was a brilliant goal to get them to extra time. And I think Djurgården kind of knew that if they took it to extra time, I mean, you don't want to play with 10 men for 115 minutes, do you? And Gullikson got the goal 93rd minute. It was a nice strike low. The keeper couldn't get down to it. And then they just controlled the game from then. 3-1 up, a man up. Rapid Vienna were tiring. Started to overcommit. And they got another goal on the break. Gullikson with another decent finish. Prisk with the assist. And Tokmak and Gwen had an assist as well. in injury time, and then it got even worse for Rapid Vienna. A former Rodez player, Serge Philippe Raouyao, which is a great name, that, isn't it? He was dismissed. I'll be honest, I can't even remember what this red card was for. I was probably focused on the Glimt game at that point, but he did get a red card. I think it was a straight red. And this was the most cards that Anthony Taylor's given out in about 3 months. So it just shows you how dirty the game was. There was a real biting edge to the match right the way through. Ever since the red card, there was a real niggle. The crowd were on top, involved as well. Not the easiest place to go by any means, Rapid Vienna, but Djurgarden have absolutely, shoulders. They can really hold their head high here. This is a great comeback in the second leg for them, and they're going to play Chelsea in the semi-final of a European competition. It's barely believable, is it? Djurgården are in the semi-final and they're playing Chelsea. Well done to them, and an incredible comeback.
Yeah, funnily enough, Steve, I was at Chelsea at the weekend against Ipswich. Interesting game. Bit of turmoil there in terms of the fans, the relationship with the player, with the management, especially. We'll talk about Chelsea in a minute. They surely have to go into some massive favourites. There's an interesting observation from a Swedish journalist, actually, Martin von Knorring, Fotbollskanalen. He said that he felt that Rapid Vienna kind of had one eye on the semi-finals already and thought that this is already done. And he gives an interesting example, where he says that he thought that, he gives an example in the sense that they only sent one reporter to Djurgården's press conference before the match. He sat at the back of the room apparently and didn't ask a single question. The feeling around the Austrian media maybe is just that they were just too relaxed about this, didn't really think that Djurgården were going to cause them any kind of concern. Did that sort of feeling translate on the pitch, do you think? Or do you really think that from your point of view, do you think the red cards was what was the key here? Or do you think it was also a sense of maybe taking it after the ball?
I thought the same. I just didn't think Djurgården were in a shape to come back because of the missing players, and it just seemed to be a tough schedule for them recently. And maybe Rapid Vienna came into that game thinking that way. We'll never know what would have happened if it had stayed 11 versus 11, will we? But it's this guy Sangari's cost them for me a semi-final place. Maybe he just wanted to make an impression, lay down a marker. It was a brainless thing to do, but also, even if you are down to 10 men, teams have won with 10 men before, Jonathan. So you can knuckle down and do it, but I think there was a case of underestimation, perhaps. With a lot of people did write them off a bit. I know the gap was only 1-0 lead. I think the presumption was they can only get a result at home on their own plastic pitch, that they're not a very good travelling team. And I think everyone, before the game, I think they were 120 to 1 to win the Conference League before the game. They're now 27 to 1 to win the Conference League. And they've obviously proven a lot of people wrong there by getting the result.
Well, there's going to be a debate about, is this the greatest result in Djurgården's history? This is a massive achievement. The fans absolutely loving it. I think that from their point of view, the squad is quite thin. They're going to be feeling it after such a battle. The injuries, as you just mentioned there. Gullikson is going to be the hero, but a lot of standouts on the night. They've all fought like warriors, really, to get through this tie. Let's look ahead to. I can't believe that we're in this situation talking about this. A European semi-final against Chelsea, the overwhelming favourites. You've got 3 English teams there. 4 in total in the semi-finals. It feels a bit almost unfair at times, really, with the amount of money in the Premier League. 15. To put it into context, Diff have made 15 million from this run, and it's pretty much their annual revenue, more or less. And if you look at Chelsea, that's not even one of Cole Palmer's toenails, is it? The price, the amount of money that Chelsea has spent over the last 2 years. This is David against Goliath, isn't it?
It is.
Wow.
There's night and day between the two teams. If Djurgården get through, then it would be a huge shock. But Chelsea are not in any great shakes at the minute. I think. It was the first leg was going to be in London, but they've had to change that. The first leg is now going to be in Stockholm, I do believe, because they don't want Spurs and Chelsea playing at home on the same night. So I think the first leg in Stockholm, they could maybe give Chelsea something to think about. It's a difficult environment. The plastic, it's a artificial pitch. Do you know what I think? The Allsvenskan, the Swedish FA, need to do them a favour now. They need to postpone the game that is in the middle of the two ties. They've got to give them every chance they can here. And they need to. That would be a nice way of helping them out, wouldn't it? I think then they could focus on the Chelsea game. Maybe even a postponement before the first leg as well. Other countries do it, so why shouldn't the Swedish FA do it as well? That's what I'd be asking for. Even if they were to get a draw in the first leg, that would be a great moment for Djurgarden against a team like Chelsea. You would expect in the second leg at Stamford Bridge they're going to get absolutely obliterated. But let's see, Warsaw have just won there. So Chelsea are not in great shape. I mean, you've just seen Chelsea Ipswich. They weren't great, were they? Chelsea. Chelsea surely will make the final, but they're not the sort of team you're hanging your house on right now, are they, Chelsea?
I'm going to say something controversial here. I think that if Diff win the first leg, I think they'll go through. Now, call me stupid. Maybe it's just because I've been watching some of the greatest comebacks tonight and some of the most crazy football I've seen for a while in this Europa League, Conference League at night. But I'm telling you, Steve, there's a lot of discontent at Chelsea. They are going. It's going to be like the Spurs game. They're Premier League fans almost laugh at these leagues, right? So the less cultured ones, let's say, a bit like the Bodø Glimt comments I just read out. Chelsea fans are not going to think they've got any worries in that match, and Diff are the sort of team I think they can defend a lead. The key is going to be injuries. I think, that is going to be massive because I think if they have to chase a game and they don't have the bodies, then I think they'll struggle. But Steve, artificial surface, Chelsea,
I think it's a tough game. The first game, I think, is tough.
They play their eye off the ball, and they sort of rest and play sort of the second. Chelsea played the second squad a lot in this competition, right? If they play the second squad, I mean, let's just look at the team that they played against Legia Warsaw tonight, Steve. They didn't play all of their top dogs, did they? They've played Achimpong, who's an 18-year-old. They've played Tosin, Badia Shield. Obviously, these are experienced players, internationals, Kukurea, Dewsbury Hall, James in midfield, Palmer, who got taken off before the hour mark, and Kunku, Sancho, who didn't play against Ipswich, came on, obviously scored a brilliant goal. But, Steve, I don't know. There's some magic in the air.
Now, I'm going to mention something here, right? This competition is not Chelsea's priority. Their priority is to get in the Champions League. These are the fixtures they've got. Before the first leg, they are home to Everton. Any team managed by David Moyes is not a piece of cake. The match in between the two ties is against Liverpool. And then the match after the second leg is Newcastle away. So I think there's a very good chance that Djurgården will be treated lightly. And I still need to check where this first leg is because on FlashScore it actually puts it as Chelsea's got the first leg now, but I think they've switched it. But either way, the fixtures in the Premier League surrounding the game is quite favourable to Djurgården because Chelsea will prioritise the Premier League. They won't think twice about Djurgården, will they? Certainly the first leg. So maybe they can surprise them. John.
Yeah, and by the way, it's a really bad tackle, the first red. I genuinely think that if Diff have to chase, I mean, I don't like you said there. It's a bit uncertain about where the legs will be played. If it is second leg at Stamford Bridge, you're going to have to win the home leg. They have to be able to sort of sit in. I think teams can sit in a low block against Chelsea and hold on. Ipswich did a similar thing. Chelsea are quite intensive when they get going, but the crowd's not happy, Steve. They will not be happy if they're down against Djurgården and chasing the match and it's not going well. They would need to get through the first sort of 20, 30 minutes. We'll talk about it, of course. But I think the home leg, they've got a genuine chance. That atmosphere is going to be rocking. The stadium, there's still, we're going to have to look into the situation with the stadium, of course. Will it be full with the partial ban they've had? But, I mean, I can't believe what I've witnessed tonight, really. So anything's possible.
Stockholm first leg. I think it's pretty much confirmed from what I've seen. So, Yes, I think that does. I think that helps Djurgarden because if the first leg was at Stamford Bridge, you would fear for them, wouldn't you? Chelsea could probably, put a stronger team out and be done with it. But it's going to be interesting. I like the idea that Djurgarden have home first, and it's not. I mean, a lot of players don't fancy artificial surfaces. A lot of players don't like it for injury reasons. It's just a mental thing, isn't it? Where I think, especially a lot of English teams and media moan about artificial surfaces down the years. So it'd be interesting to see how
On the counter
both.
attack, if Gullikson, the second one as well is bad, isn't it? Even the second red is.
I can't even remember the second red. What was it? Is a bad one?
It's a 2-footed challenge. It's not nice.
Jeez, I mean,
the first
is a shock. The first is a shocker, isn't it? Genuinely, could be an ankle breaker. That.
Both
How was that not
really
given
bad.
red on the field? I don't know, but
they're both really bad. We'll wrap it up in a minute. I mean, like I say, I think that it's a trap game for both Premier League sides, and a lot is going to rest on the first leg. Obviously, and Steve, Cole Palmer's not even playing that well at the moment. Like things are not right at Chelsea. They're scraping through games, but they're not battering teams. Do you know what I mean? They're not going to sort of. Unless Diff have to chase it, I can't see it being like a 4-0 at Stamford Bridge. Do you know what I mean? Or 5-0 or something. It could maybe if they have to chase it, but I think they struggle against low block sides who sort of just sit in. The wingers, if you double up against them, Jackson's obviously coming back from injury, so that might be crucial as well, to be fair. They do have a mistake in them at the back. Who knows, Steve? Who knows? But I guess we'll leave it there.
But you know what? The more I think about it, the more I'm not sure Chelsea will win the Conference League. Even if they get past Djurgården, Real Betis and Fiorentina, I mean, they're two well-coached sides. There's a former Premier League manager, former Premier League winner, as manager for Real Betis. And Fiorentina have lost 2 finals in the conference. They'll be like an animal possessed if they got to the final. They don't lose 3 finals, do they? So, Chelsea. I think you're right. It's not all is right there. And Djurgården they've got maybe more of a chance than some think. There is a big golfing class, but these 2 sides have really helped done the region proud. Let's see if they can go any further.
What would be the odds for Chelsea? Do you know off the top of your head?
Well, Chelsea are
what would this odds be to go through?
Oh, I reckon there'll be about 7-1 to qualify, maybe 8-1. Could be 10s. Chelsea are 1.45 to win the Conference League, John. Just to win the whole thing.
There's magic in the air, Steve. I think there could be magic in the air.
I think Glimt will be.
What I'll say is, go on, sir.
Yeah, go on.
No, I think it's the perfect game for Diff. I think this is arguably the biggest game in the history. It is going to be. Yeah. It's going to be about. I don't think they'll win the final. If they were to get to a final, I think they'd struggle. But Chelsea are a sort of team there's an upset in Chelsea, I think. Whether it's Diff who can do it, who've got the ability, who knows? But one thing's for certain, Steve, you know what the atmosphere can be like in Stockholm games. They're going to have the night of their life in that game, no matter the score. And similar in Glimt, obviously, in Norway, they're going to love that game against Spurs, aren't they, Steve? They're going to really relish that and come into London as well. So what a night. It's hard to really sum it up. I mean, you're shaking your head in disbelief of what you've witnessed.
I am. I can't believe it. These are crazy times. And, I mean, we've got a lot to look forward to in these. So this has never happened to us, obviously, before. We've never had a team go remotely this deep, have we? Against just the matchups as well, Spurs and Chelsea. It's not like, it feels that's more exciting than, no offense to them, but it's more exciting than if it was Real Betis or Fiorentina or even Athletic Bilbao. I'm coming from. So if either of these teams did progress, this is. I just remember when we used to work at Football Radar, La Sensation de Quevilly. This would be a proper sense. This would be the sensation of the century almost. If this is beyond that. This is beyond that, Jonathan. This is Crazy
I'm
times.
I'm speechless. I mean, I can't believe it. But what I will say is what a massive achievement. We've been saying it over the last few years, Steve. The leagues are improving. You know, they're no longer like minnows. These teams, they're coming in with good tactics, good managers, good players. You know, the region's on the up. Let's see if we can get one in the final at least. That would be unbelievable. But
Would be.
yeah,
Yeah.
For now, all we can really say is unbelievable. I mean, what I'd like to say is tweet us at Nordic Foot Pod or leave a message on the YouTube channel. If one of these teams wins or gets to the final, I want to hear your suggestions. What do we do? Do we do a watch along? Do we rent out a venue in London, Steve, and get down to Spurs? What do we do? We need some ideas as well for like how are we going to commemorate this? Because this is like
I
this
don't
is like
know.
the biggest
I
moment.
just don't know. I'm kind of all in a mumble and jumble here at the minute, John. I really am. Don't know whether I'm coming or going. You know, crazy times, and best of luck to both teams in the
Yeah,
semi-finals. Let's hope we can get one of them over the line. Be incredible.
massive congratulations to Bodø, Glimt and Djurgården. Just a little bit of breaking news tonight as well in Sweden before we leave. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about Kim Hellberg at Hammarby potentially linked with a Swansea City job. There's a lot of rumours there in advanced talks, or that he's flown to Wales to have meetings, Steve. So we'll talk about that as well in a future episode. Obviously, we've had a few rounds now of the early rounds, and we'll be back soon with some more content on the Nordic Football Podcast. But for now, thank you for listening to this reaction episode, Steve. Good job. As always, we'll be back soon with plenty more content. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Nordic Footpod, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. But for now, final word, Steve Wyss. In one word, sum up tonight.
Final word is I'm lost for words. Anyway, yes, good night and thank you, everyone.
I think your parrot
And that's
just gave
my
a little
quail. What's my quail in the background? Yeah, your quail that's in mourning. He lost his partner a few months ago, and he's still mourning. That's you know what that noise is. That is the noise tonight of Lazio and Rapid Vienna. They not feeling too good about themselves, I don't think. After, but it's all joy the other way for Bodø, Glimt and Djurgarden. So thanks everyone. We will see you next time on the Nordic Football Podcast. It might be a bonus episode coming up soon with a special guest. So keep go on.
Funnily enough that you say that, it is revenge, isn't it, for Glimt in terms of the last time they were in a quarter final was in Rome, wasn't it? Same stadium when they lost.
Yes.
So yeah, like you said, Lazio will be mourning. But for now, it is a jubilant night for the Nordic Football Podcast and everyone related to these two leagues. I mean, except for maybe Oikor and Tromso fans. But what a night! We'll see you soon, and we'll be in touch. Obviously, we'll be back. We're a bit speechless. But take care, everyone, and thanks for listening.